The blue paint that I applied earlier is dried now, so now I'm going to continue to develop part of the frog that's submerged under the water. And even though the drawing is in place, I continue to refer to my reference photo and make any corrections or add detail that I think is necessary. Part of the body of the frog is down here, and it sort of curves into this area. The beautiful cool green of the tiny little floaty plantlets contrast nicely against the warm browns of the frog and the water, and establishes a very effective complementary balance of colors. For the dark areas of the legs that are under the water, I'm going to continue to work mostly with raw sienna and ultramarine blue and brown matter to achieve a redder quality. And I like the richness of the gray that I can mix with brown matter and ultramarine blue. First I paint in a line of varying width with my mixed gray. Then I apply some clean brown matter into that gray and work it in. Next I add a touch of green. That's a mixture of cobalt blue with Winsor yellow. So the gray detail that I just created is not just a boring gray line. It's rich with suggestions of greens and browns and blues. I'm going to continue with that dark gray that I mixed and flow it in right down here. And this time, instead of adding burnt sienna or brown matter into it, I'm going to add quinacridone gold because of its strong yellowish quality. The quinacridone gold creates a nice transition from the cool gray blue to the warmer brown yellow. Okay, now I'm going to go in with another application of my ultramarine blue right down here. Study areas like this very closely and analyze them for all of the different color variations that you can see, and work those color variations into your painting. Since there's a lot of interaction between the browns of the frog and the water, I'll start out with my gray mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, but I'm adding more burnt sienna to that to be able to push it more towards the brown end. Yeah, just about like that. That's good. And while that brown is wet, I'm going to add a little bit of quinacridone gold into it. Next, I'll add a little bit of cobalt blue into this area. Just have a gut feeling about the appropriateness of the cobalt blue there. I think it would work nicely. Something about the cobalt, when it picks up the quinacridone, beautiful things happen. But notice, I'm not forcing the blending with my brush. I let the paint blend itself. Okay. Pretty intense color. That's a little quinacridone rose. Once again, I'm applying more of the mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Kind of gets very unusual in this area. Lots of funky things going on. So I'm just going to play around with my blues and my browns and let them mingle on their own. I'm just about ready to paint into the leg area, and I'm going to continue laying in my mixed dark color, which is mostly a combination of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. But I also think a few touches of sap green will help the leg areas of the frog. First, I'll apply the dark gray wash, which is a mixture of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. Now I'm flowing in brown matter to the wash that I just applied. Often when I go off camera, what I'm doing is I'm mixing up more color. I wanted to get some of that brown matter into this ultramarine mixture to get a really dark. There we go. So, before it starts to dry up, let me get that dark in place. Now, see how boring that is? That's just a dark color. And I would never leave it that way. What I'm going to do to that dark color is I'm going to float in a little of yellow ochre, because I see that. A lot of yellow ochre in this area. I want to give it life and color. Good. And I'd like to touch it with a little bit of sap green, especially over here. So this part of the frog is very dark with beautiful blue highlights, and of course the green floaty things. I'll continue to paint into this area using the combination of ultramarine blue with brown matter and burnt sienna. Using a number 6 Series 7 Kolansky, I'm laying in these colors. Mixing freely on the palette, the blues, the ultramarine blue with the brown. As I paint, I don't hesitate to make corrections to my original drawing that's on the watercolor paper to add either additional details or to correct certain areas if they don't look right to me. Have to be sensitive to the amount of water you have on your brush, because too much is not good. You don't want more water than paint. You can also mix Antwerp blue with either brown matter or burnt sienna to get very deep dark gray colors. And I want to push it towards the blue end because I see the tonality of the frog in this area takes on a really deep, dark, slightly bluish quality. Into that dark, I'd like to drop in some sap green. I'm going to have to switch to a smaller brush only because I don't have enough tip on this number 6 brush. And I want to keep some of that line work that I drew in. I'm not working on a slight angle like I prefer to do. The reason why is I want to record this, but if I wasn't recording this, I'd have my paper tilted. at least 20 degrees. This way gravity starts to play with the mixing of colors and I get better color effects than I'm getting right now. I never use lamp black or carbon black. I always mix my black by mixing complementary colors. I mix this bluish blackish color with the mixture of ultramarine blue plus brown matter and some Antwerp blue. Into this blue-black color, I'm dropping in cerulean blue. Why am I doing this? Because I want to create lighter blue highlights, and the more opaque cerulean blue will stay on the surface of the paper and provide a nice bluish hint of color in this dark area. I'll only use the cerulean blue like this when I'm finished glazing over the area, because any additional glazes of transparent saturating colors over the cerulean blue will pick up the cerulean blue and muddy the glaze. As you work in the dark color to create the frog's leg, work hints of other colors such as burnt sienna, yellow ochre, brown madder, and a variety of blues including cerulean blue into it. But don't brush these colors into it, just drip them in and let them blend on their own, flowing freely and intermingling with one another. I'm only doing that in areas that I can tell are still wet enough to allow the paint to mingle in an acceptable way. And there is no how-to instruction that I can give you that would help you totally understand when to do that. You just have to paint and get the feeling of what happens as watercolor starts to dry. The interaction of the paper with the color, with the water. And the more you paint, the more you understand these properties. Something that, I can guide you in class, but you have to experience it on your own. And take chances, experiment. When things are going wrong, that's when you're probably learning the most. Hey, we have a frog with a leg. Some burnt sienna. Now we're going to flow in some of that mixed gray, which is mostly a combination of ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. The beauty of watercolor is achieved by placing the color and then letting it intermingle and do its own thing with adjacent colors. Don't work the paint too much, because that's how you kill a watercolor. Allow the paint to be free and achieve its own effects. You have to be prepared to expect the unexpected, but the unexpected can be very beautiful in watercolor. This part of the leg is essentially black in color with hints of blue. To achieve this color, I mixed up brown matter with Antwerp blue. Because of the slight opaque quality of cerulean blue, it will create nice little hints of blue in this very dark area. I usually apply the opaque colors at the very end of the painting process when there's no risk of introducing staining color glazes on top of them. If I glazed over the opaque colors with a transparent staining color, the opaque color would mix with and dull the transparent staining color. Little pure brown matter in this area. Carry some of that brown matter here. Okay, that line comes down and then the frog leg continues on this side. There we go. The interesting part of this painting is again when going to be when I lay in the pond water, all the water around the frog that the frog is floating in. In the reference photo, this area becomes very the color value with the surrounding water and the frog foot are almost the same. So what happens is the frog's foot is disappearing into a murky area of vaguely nebulous forms and colors and strange interminglings. Still very wet, so when you're painting wet and wet at this stage, I can throw in colors. Or I could lift out colors. Here, let's do a little lifting out. Bring my sable to a point and just suck up some paint to get the suggestion of highlights. I do see some kind of a circular thing going on here in the photo that I've just become aware of, and it would be nice to hint at it. That's all I can do at this stage, is hint at it. Clean my brush off, drag it in again. Painting with watercolor is not just a process of applying paint. It's a process of lifting out color as you paint. But the paper has to be the right moisture level for the results to be successful. And that's what you have to get the feel of. In all the areas that you see me working my brush into now, I'm actually lifting out color. And periodically I swish the paintbrush in clean water to clean the brush, and I squeeze out the excess moisture and return to lifting out color to achieve detail. Mr. Frog is beginning to emerge, and I still have a little bit of work to do on it, but the next challenge will be to paint the surface of the pond and capture all its variations of warm colors. In the next video segment, following what you just watched in part 3, I'll demonstrate an alternative approach to starting the frog painting. Instead of beginning with the frog, some people may prefer to start by painting the pond's water first. In a brief follow-up video, I'll show how to begin by painting the pond's warm, luminous water first. Then I'll continue posted videos that show how to complete this painting by working on the pond surface.